Hey folks, tonight we're diving into the wild, winding life of Napoleon Hill, the guy who practically invented the self-help genre with Think and Grow Rich. But here's the kicker. Despite preaching wealth, his own bank account was often emptier than a coffee shop on Monday morning. Buckle up, because this tale of ambition, mystery, and contradiction might just keep you up past bedtime. Though I'm betting you'll survive it, unlike my last attempt at baking cookies. So before you get cozy, take a sec to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're vibing with what I'm putting down here. Picture yourself in the early 1900s, the air thick with coal dust and the hum of new industry. You're a young Napoleon Hill, barely out of your teens, scratching out a living in Wise County, Virginia. The world's changing fast. Factories are popping up, and millionaires like Rockefeller and Carnegie are household names. You're not some city slicker. You're a mountain boy, born in a one-room cabin in 1883, with a chip on your shoulder and a fire in your belly. Life hasn't been kind. Your mom died when you were 9, and your dad's remarriage brought a stepmother who, frankly, you didn't always see eye to eye with. But that grit? It's what pushes you to pick up a pen and chase a bigger story. You're hustling as a freelance reporter, typing away on a clunky typewriter, the keys sticking like molasses. The work's tough, long hours, low pay, and editors who'd rather chew glass than give you a byline. But you've got a knack for words, a smooth way of spinning a tale that makes people lean in. By 1908, you're 25, scraping by, when fate drops a bombshell. You land an interview with Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who's richer than half the country combined. Imagine sitting across from him in a dimly lit office. The smell of polished oak and cigar smoke in the air. His Scottish brogue cuts through the silence as he sizes you up, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. Carnegie's not just a tycoon, he's a philosopher of wealth. He believes success isn't luck, it's a formula, a science. And you, a scrappy kid from nowhere, catch his attention. Maybe it's your hunger, or maybe it's the way you ask questions like you're already halfway to the answer. Either way, he leans forward and lays out a challenge. Spend your life studying the principles of success by interviewing the world's greatest minds. Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, the lot. No pay, no guarantees, just a shot at cracking the code to riches. You're stunned. Your pulse racing like you've just sprinted a mile. Say yes, and you're committing to a decades-long quest. Say no, and you're back to chasing small-time stories for pennies. You say yes. Of course you do. Wouldn't you? This is your ticket out of the grind, a chance to rub shoulders with giants. Carnegie's words linger like the aftertaste of strong coffee. Wealth is a mindset, young man. You're not sure what that means yet, but it's enough to light a spark. You start scribbling notes, your fingers stained with ink, mapping out a plan to track down the titans of industry. The catch? You've got no money, no connections, and a wardrobe that screams small-town reporter. But there's something electric in the air, a sense that you're standing at the edge of something huge. Now here's a weird tidbit. Carnegie didn't just pick you out of a hat. Some say he saw himself in you. A poor kid who clawed his way up. There's even a rumor he slipped you a train ticket to get to your next interview. Though no one's ever found proof. Historians still debate whether Carnegie's challenge was a formal deal, or just a casual conversation that you spun into a lifelong mission. Either way, you're all in, chasing this dream like a dog after a bone. The road ahead isn't glamorous. You're hopping trains, sleeping in cheap boarding houses that smell of stale bread and regret. You write letters to men who could buy entire towns, begging for 5 minutes of their time. Some slam the door. Others, like Thomas Edison, actually sit down with you, his lab buzzing with the hum of invention. You're asking big questions. What makes a man rich? Is it grit, luck, or something else? Each answer feels like a puzzle piece, and you're obsessed with fitting them together. By now, you're not just a reporter. You're a detective of success. Your notebook's filled with scribbles about persistence, vision, and desire. You're starting to see patterns, ideas that could change the world. But there's a shadow creeping in. You're burning through what little cash you have, and the folks back home are starting to whisper. Is Napoleon chasing a pipe dream? You push the doubt aside, but it's there, like a pebble in your shoe. Here's a little chuckle for you. One time, you showed up to interview a banker in a suit so threadbare, he mistook you for the delivery boy. You laughed it off, but man, that stung. Another time, You spent your last dime on a train ticket, only to find the guy you were meeting had left town. Classic Napoleon luck, right? Still, you keep going because Carnegie's voice is in your head, and you're not about to let this chance slip. This is where the story starts to take shape. You're not just collecting interviews, you're building a philosophy, something bigger than yourself. But the question lingers. If success is a formula, why's your wallet still so light? That's a mystery for another night, folks. For now, you're Napoleon Hill, the guy with a dream and a typewriter, ready to rewrite the rules of wealth. You're Napoleon Hill, knee-deep in the early 1910s, your notebook bursting with scribbles from conversations with giants like Edison and Ford. The air smells of ink and ambition as you sit in a cramped boarding house room. The gas lamp flickering, casting shadows on the peeling wallpaper. Andrew Carnegie's challenge, to decode the science of success, has consumed you. It's not just a job now, it's a mission, a puzzle you're piecing together with every interview. You're no longer just a journalist chasing a story. You're crafting a philosophy, one that could change how people see wealth, success, and themselves. The weight of it feels heavy, like carrying a stack of books up a mountain. But there's a thrill in it too, isn't there? You're traveling across America, your suitcase battered, your shoes worn thin from walking city streets and dusty roads. Each meeting with a titan of industry is like striking gold. You sit with Henry Ford in Detroit, the hum of his factories in the background. His voice sharp and practical as he talks about persistence and efficiency. You jot down every word, your hand cramping, your heart racing. Then there's Alexander Graham Bell, his beard white as snow, explaining how vision and focus turn ideas into reality. These men aren't just rich. They're architects of their own destinies, and you're starting to see patterns. Desire, belief, action. These words keep circling in your mind, like a song you can't shake. You're not just collecting quotes, you're distilling wisdom. By now, you've interviewed dozens of successful figures, bankers, inventors, even a few politicians. You notice they all share a certain spark, a way of thinking that sets them apart. It's not about luck or birthright, it's about mindset. You start calling it positive mental attitude, a phrase that feels like it could light up a room. You're sketching out principles, things like definite chief aim and mastermind groups. Ideas that sound almost mystical but are grounded in the stories you're hearing. You're building something big, something that could outlive you. But let's be real, it's not all smooth sailing. You're broke half the time, eating day-old bread and dodging landlords who want their rent. You're pouring every penny into train tickets and postage to reach these big shots. Sometimes, you wonder if you're chasing a mirage. One night, in a dingy Chicago hotel, you stare at the ceiling, the sound of streetcars rattling outside, and think, what if I'm wrong? But then you remember Carnegie's voice, that gruff Scottish burr, telling you success is a formula. You roll over, grab your notebook, and keep writing. Here's a quirky detail. You once lost a notebook full of interview notes in a train station, only to find it days later in a lost and found, wedged between a hat and a forgotten umbrella. Pure luck, or was it fate? Historians still debate whether you exaggerated some of these interviews, maybe embellishing a chat with Edison to sound grander than it was. But you don't care about the skeptics. You're too busy synthesizing ideas, turning raw conversations into a blueprint for success. Your big break comes when you start publishing articles based on these interviews. Magazines eat it up. Readers are hungry for stories about how the rich get richer. You're not just reporting now, you're teaching. You write about the law of success, a phrase you coin, and it lands like a thunderbolt. People write you letters, saying your words changed how they see their lives. You're starting to feel like a preacher, spreading a gospel of possibility. But there's a catch. You're preaching wealth while your own pockets are empty. The irony stings, like biting into a lemon when you expected an orange. For a laugh, picture this. One time, you showed up to meet a steel baron, only to realize you'd worn mismatched socks, one black, one blue. He didn't notice, but you spent the whole interview tugging at your pant legs, praying he wouldn't look down. Another time, you tried to impress a publisher by quoting Carnegie, only to misquote him so badly you had to backtrack with a sheepish grin. And then there's the story of you sneaking into a fancy hotel to use their stationery for your letters. Hey, you gotta fake it till you make it, right? By the mid-1910s, you're putting the finishing touches on your philosophy. You've distilled it into a set of principles, 17 to be exact, that you believe anyone can follow to achieve greatness. You're calling it the law of success, and it's your first big swing at a book. It's not Think and Grow Rich yet, but it's close. You're testing your ideas in lectures, standing in front of small crowds, your voice steady despite the butterflies in your stomach. People lean forward, hanging on your words, and you realize you're onto something huge. The historical truth? Your meeting with Carnegie, around 1908, is well documented in your own writings, though some details shift depending on the telling. You claimed it lasted hours. Others say it was a quick chat. Either way, it set you on this path. The world's changing. World War I is looming, and America's buzzing with opportunity. You're not just writing a book, you're trying to bottle lightning. But that nagging question remains. If you're decoding the secrets of wealth, why are you still scraping by? That's a puzzle for the next chapter, my friends. For now, you're Napoleon Hill, the man with a vision, ready to turn ideas into gold. You're Napoleon Hill, standing at the edge of something massive in the late 1920s, your heart pounding like a drum as you watch your ideas catch fire. The world's buzzing with jazz, flappers, and the hum of Model Ts, but you're focused on one thing: turning your philosophy into a book that'll shake the world. Your suitcase is heavier now, stuffed with years of notes from titans like Ford and Edison, and your mind's racing with the principles you've distilled: desire, faith, persistence. You're not just a writer anymore. You're a messenger, ready to deliver a gospel of success to a nation hungry for it. The air smells of fresh ink and possibility as you sit at a rickety desk, typing out what will become the law of success, your first big swing. It's 1928, and when the law of success hits shelves, it's like dropping a match in a dry field. People devour it. Businessmen, dreamers, even housewives write you letters, their words trembling with excitement. They're quoting your principles like scripture, talking about definite chief aims, over coffee. You're invited to speak at Rotary clubs and lecture halls, your voice carrying over the creak of wooden floors and the murmur of eager crowds. Picture yourself in a small Chicago auditorium. The lights dim, the room packed with folks in suits and dresses, all leaning forward as you explain how a burning desire can move mountains. It's electric, like you're conducting a symphony of ambition. Your lectures are a hit. You're pacing the stage, your hands gesturing wildly, your words soft but firm, like a bedtime story with a kick. You tell stories of Carnegie's steel empire, of Edison's relentless tinkering, weaving them into lessons anyone can apply. The crowd eats it up, clapping like you've just handed them the keys to a vault. You're not just teaching, you're inspiring, and it feels like you're floating. By the early 1930s, you're working on Think and Grow Rich, distilling your 17 principles into something tighter, punchier. When it drops in 1937, it's a cultural earthquake. Bookstores can't keep it in stock. People carry it like a talisman, dog-earing pages, underlining passages about autosuggestion and mastermind groups. But let's pause for a laugh. You once tripped over a stage curtain during a lecture, nearly face-planting in front of 200 people. You played it off with a grin, saying, "Well, persistence starts with getting back up." The crowd roared, but your ego was bruised worse than your knees. Another time, a fan mailed you a lucky rabbit's foot, which you politely tucked away, hoping it wasn't watching you with those beady little eyes. And then there's the story of you signing books so fast your pen ran dry, leaving you to borrow a pencil from a kid in the audience. Talk about humbling. The historical truth? Think and Grow Rich sold over 20,000 copies in its first year, a massive hit for the time, especially during the Great Depression when folks were desperate for hope. But here's the oddball detail. You insisted on including a chapter on the mystery of sex transmutation, arguing that sexual energy could be redirected into creative success. Readers raised eyebrows, some calling it genius, others calling it downright weird. Historians still debate whether this was a stroke of insight or a quirky obsession, but it sure got people talking. You're at your peak now, traveling coast to coast, your name in newspapers, your face on posters. You're not just a writer. You're a brand, a beacon for anyone who's ever dreamed of more. You're dining with mayors, shaking hands with CEOs, and getting fan mail from places as far as Australia. But there's a shadow in the corner of your eye. Your bank account doesn't match your fame. You're preaching wealth, yet you're dodging bills, borrowing cash to keep the lights on. The irony's thick, like fog rolling in off a lake. Why can't the guy who wrote the book on riches keep his own finances straight? You push the thought aside, focusing on the crowds, the applause, the letters from readers who say your words change their lives. You're telling them to visualize success, to believe in it so fiercely it becomes real. And you believe it too most days. But late at night, when the world's quiet and the only sound is the scratch of your pen, you wonder if you're missing a piece of your own puzzle. You're Napoleon Hill, the man who's lit a fire under America, but the question lingers. If success is a formula, why's your own path so bumpy? That's a mystery we'll unravel soon, folks. For now, you're riding high, your words echoing in hearts across the nation. You're Napoleon Hill, the man who's got America dreaming big, but now in the late 1930s, you're staring at a problem that's harder to ignore than a rainstorm at a picnic. Think and Grow Rich is flying off shelves, your lectures are packed, and folks are quoting your positive mental attitude, like it's the secret to life itself. Yet, your bank account's telling a different story, one of bounced checks, unpaid bills, and a wallet so thin it could slide under a door. The air in your small office smells of dusty books and stale coffee as you sit, head in hands, wondering how the guy who wrote the book on wealth can't pay his own rent. This is the mystery we're diving into tonight, and it's a twisty one. Your fame is at its peak, but your finances are a roller coaster with no brakes. You've got ventures going south faster than a flock of geese in winter. Take your magazine, Hill's Golden Rule, launched back in 1919. It was supposed to spread your success philosophy, but it tanked, leaving you with debts and a bruised ego. Then there's the Intrawall Correspondence School, a mail-order course to teach your principles. Sounded like a goldmine, right? Except it flopped hard, eating up cash you didn't have. You're preaching persistence, but these failures sting like a slap, making you question if you missed a chapter in your own book. Picture yourself pacing a creaky hotel room, the neon sign outside buzzing like a mosquito. You've got fans writing you letters, calling you a genius, but creditors are knocking too, and they're not here for autographs. You've borrowed money from friends, even your wife's family, promising big returns that never come. It's the Great Depression, sure, and everyone's struggling, but you're supposed to be the guy with the answers. You tell people to visualize wealth, to believe it into existence, but when you close your eyes, all you see are bills piling up like autumn leaves. Here's a weird tidbit. One of your failed ventures involved selling success candy bars. Yep, candy bars branded with your name, meant to inspire while you chewed. Spoiler alert. They didn't sell, and you ended up with crates of unsold chocolate gathering dust. Historians still debate whether you were a visionary who overreached or just bad at business. Either way, the irony's thick. You're the success guru who can't seem to succeed. For a chuckle, imagine this. You once tried to charm a banker into a loan by quoting your own book, only for him to say, "If you're so smart, why are you here begging?" Ouch. Another time, you showed up to a lecture with a hole in your shoe, covering it with a quick polish and a quicker smile. And then there's the story of you misplacing a speech draft, only to wing it so well the crowd gave you a standing ovation. Proof you could talk your way out of anything except debt. The historical truth? Your financial struggles in the 1930s are well documented, with records showing multiple bankruptcies and failed businesses. You were great at inspiring others but terrible at managing money. Why? Some say you were too trusting, handing cash to partners who vanished like smoke. Others point to your big dreams, always chasing the next big idea without nailing down the details. You'd start a project, pour your heart into it, then watch it crumble when the numbers didn't add up. Your philosophy says desire and faith can move mountains, but mountains don't pay the electric bill. You're still lecturing, still writing, still believing in your principles. You tell crowds to form mastermind groups, to harness collective energy, but your own partnerships keep falling apart. You're pushing autosuggestion, repeating affirmations to rewire your mind. But when you try it, the doubts creep back in whispering, "If this works, why are you broke?" It's a paradox that gnaws at you, like a splinter you can't quite pull out. You're not a fraud. You believe every word you write, but the gap between your teachings and your reality is wider than a canyon. By the early 1940s, you're trying to pivot. You launch new projects, a newsletter, a radio show, but they fizzle too. You're still a star, still packing lecture halls, but the money slips through your fingers like sand. You're not alone in struggling. The depressions hit everyone hard. But for you, it's personal. You're the guy who said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So why can't you achieve financial stability? It's a question that haunts you, and it's starting to make people whisper. Is Napoleon Hill's philosophy flawed? Or is he just bad at following it? You keep going, because that's what you do. You tell yourself it's temporary, that success is just around the corner. You're Napoleon Hill, after all, the man who's inspired thousands to chase their dreams. But as you sit in that dimly lit room, the sound of a distant train rattling through the night, you can't shake the feeling that the biggest mystery isn't your philosophy. It's you. Why can't the master of success master his own wallet? That's a riddle we'll keep chasing, folks, as we head into the next chapter of this wild ride. You're Napoleon Hill, now in the 1940s, your name's still a beacon for dreamers, but the cracks in your story are starting to show, like worn paint on an old house. The world's spinning through World War II, with radios blaring news of battles and ration cards. Yet your book, Think and Grow Rich, remains a lifeline for folks chasing hope. You're still lecturing, your voice soft and steady, carrying the weight of your principles, desire, faith, persistence, like a well-worn hymn. But the mystery of your empty pockets lingers, heavy as the fog outside your window. The air in your modest apartment smells of old paper and candle wax as you sit, reflecting on a legacy that's both towering and tangled. Tonight, we're diving into what you've left behind and the questions that still swirl around you. Your influence is undeniable. Think and Grow Rich has sold millions, translated into languages you can't even pronounce. People write you letters from small towns and big cities, saying your words pulled them out of despair, helped them start businesses, or just keep going. You're not just a writer anymore. You're a movement, a spark that's lit fires in hearts across the globe. You've got disciples now, folks teaching your principles in their own books and seminars. But with fame comes scrutiny, and the whispers about your finances are getting louder. How can the guy who cracked the code to wealth be so bad at keeping it? Let's talk legacy. Your ideas, auto-suggestion, mastermind groups, the power of a definite chief aim, have seeped into the culture. They're the roots of modern self-help, from motivational speakers to corporate coaches. You've changed how people think about success, making it feel less like luck and more like a recipe anyone can follow. But there's a shadow side. Critics point to your failed ventures, magazines, schools, even those ill-fated candy bars, and ask if your philosophy is just hot air. Others defend you, saying the Great Depression and bad partners sank your dreams, not your ideas. Historians still debate whether your financial flops prove you were a flawed genius, or just a dreamer who couldn't balance a checkbook. Here's a strange tidbit. In the 1940s, you briefly got tangled up with a shady character named William H. Wise, who tried to republish your work under questionable terms. You cut ties, but the episode left a stain, with some calling you gullible. It's a reminder that even the master of success could pick the wrong allies. The irony's sharp, like biting into an apple and finding a worm. For a laugh, picture this. You once gave a lecture so late at night, you nodded off mid-sentence, only to snap awake and joke. See? Even I need to dream big. The crowd loved it, but your wife wasn't thrilled. Another time, a fan sent you a homemade success pie, crust burned, filling questionable, but you ate a slice to be polite, grinning through every bite. And then there's the story of you misplacing your lecture notes, only to improvise for 2 hours, leaving the audience thinking it was your best talk yet. You're a showman, no doubt, even when life's throwing curveballs. The historical truth? By the 1940s, Think and Grow Rich had sold over 1 million copies, a juggernaut that kept your name alive despite your financial woes. But your personal life was messy. Multiple marriages, strained relationships, and a string of bad investments painted a picture of a man who could inspire the world but not himself. Some say you were too busy teaching to practice your own principles. Others argue you were a victim of circumstance, war, economic turmoil, and partners who didn't play fair. Either way, your legacy is a paradox, a philosophy that works for millions, yet left you scraping by. You're still pushing forward, writing new books, giving talks, even dabbling in radio and film projects that never quite take off. You're in your 60s now, your hair graying, but your eyes still burn with that old fire. You believe in your principles, even when the world tests them. Late at night, in a quiet room with the hum of a distant city outside, you wonder about the gap between your teachings and your reality. Did you miss something? Or is success more than money? Maybe it's the lives you've touched, the minds you've sparked. The controversy around you grows. Some call you a prophet, others a huckster. Your fans swear by your words, while skeptics point to your empty bank account as proof of failure. You don't have all the answers, but you keep going because that's what you've always done. You're Napoleon Hill, the man who gave the world a blueprint for success, yet left behind a puzzle that still baffles us. Was your philosophy flawed, or did you just stumble on the execution? That's what we'll wrestle with next, as we head toward the final chapter of this wild, winding story. You're Napoleon Hill, in the twilight of your life, the 1950s and 60s stretching out like a long, quiet road. The world's changed, rock and roll's on the radio, TVs glow in living rooms, but your words still echo, carried by Think and Grow Rich, a book that's outlived wars and recessions. You're older now, your step slower, your hair a silver crown, but your voice still holds that gentle fire, soothing yet urgent, as you sit in a modest study, the scent of old books and faint pipe smoke in the air. You're looking back, piecing together a life of triumphs and stumbles, trying to untangle the mystery of why your wallet never matched your wisdom. Tonight, we're closing this journey, reflecting on what it all means. Your legacy is a towering thing, like a lighthouse in a storm. Your books sold millions, inspiring everyone from factory workers to CEOs. Your principles, desire, faith, the mastermind, are woven into the fabric of self-help, shaping how people chase dreams. You've given hope to the hopeless, a map to those lost in doubt. But the shadow of your financial failures lingers, like a stubborn fog. Why couldn't you, the guru of success, make it stick? You've asked yourself this in quiet moments, the tick of a clock your only company. Was it bad luck, bad partners, or something deeper? Let's unravel that mystery. Your life was a parade of bold ideas, magazines, schools, even a brief stint advising President Roosevelt during the Depression. But so many crashed. You trusted too easily, handing money to folks who vanished like morning mist. You chased big visions without sweating the small stuff like budgets or contracts. Yet, your philosophy wasn't about dollars alone. It was about mindset, purpose, the spark that drives a person forward. Maybe success, for you, was the lives you changed, not the cash you never held on to. Historians still debate whether your failures disprove your ideas or prove their truth in a different way. Success isn't always a fat bank account. Here's a quirky detail. Late in life, you tried selling a Napoleon Hill success course, via mail, complete with vinyl records of your talks. It flopped, but fans still treasure those scratchy recordings, your voice crackling like a warm fire. For a laugh, imagine this. You once spilled coffee on a manuscript, then told your wife it was part of the creative process. She didn't buy it. Another time, you got lost on the way to a lecture, arriving an hour late, only to charm the crowd with a joke about persisting through detours. And there's the story of you signing a fan's book with Keep Dreaming Big, only to realize you'd written it on the title page of someone else's novel. Oops. The historical truth? You passed away in 1970, at 87, leaving behind a legacy that's still growing. Think and Grow Rich has sold over 100 million copies worldwide, a number that would have made your jaw drop. But your financial struggles were real. Records show you died with little wealth, relying on royalties and your wife's support. Some say you were a victim of your era's chaos. Others say you were too busy preaching to practice. Either way, your life was a paradox, a man who lit up the world but stumbled in the dark. Now let's slow down, let the words settle like dust after a storm. You're Napoleon Hill, sitting in that quiet study, the world outside humming with life. You've given millions a reason to believe, to strive, to see beyond their circumstances. Your failures? They're part of the story, proof you were human, not a saint. The mystery of your finances isn't a flaw, it's a question mark. A reminder that success is more than money. It's the fire you sparked, the minds you opened, the dreams you set free. You've left a mark that time can't erase, a philosophy that still whispers to anyone who listens. Believe, persist, achieve. As you close your eyes, the weight of your journey feels lighter. You've run the race, not perfectly, but passionately. The world's better for it, and maybe that's the real gold you were chasing all along. So here's to you, Napoleon Hill, the dreamer, the teacher, the puzzle. Your story's done, but its echo carries on, soft and steady, like a heartbeat in the night. Let's take a breath, let the story settle, like leaves drifting to the ground after a gust of wind. You've walked with Napoleon Hill through his highs and lows, from a scrappy reporter to a beacon of hope, from packed lecture halls to the quiet sting of empty pockets. His life was a paradox, a man who taught millions to chase wealth but couldn't hold it himself. Was he a flawed genius, a dreamer tripped by details, or a prophet whose success lay in minds changed, not dollars earned? That mystery lingers, soft and elusive, like a half-remembered dream. His principles, desire, faith, persistence, still burn bright, guiding people through their own storms. You've seen his failures, his fire, his legacy that stretches across decades. Maybe the real lesson is this: success isn't just a number in a bank. It's the spark you leave behind, the lives you touch, the hope you plant in hearts. Napoleon Hill's story isn't tidy, but it's human, raw, and real. And in that, there's a kind of magic, isn't there? So, as you drift off tonight, think of him. A man who dared to dream big, even when the world didn't make it easy. His voice still whispers, believe, keep going, achieve.